Socialization is definitely one of my favorite topics. Now, granted, I say that a bunch, like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite. No, 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 that's my favorite. But it really, really is in this case. I mean, one of my favorites. Like I said, there's a lot. But I think one of the reasons it's one of the favorites is because, similar to the theme that I try to instill throughout Introduction to Sociology, it's just us living life and starting to analyze the implications of it. So let's go ahead and start talking about it. So, a definition of socialization, as you can see, is that we learn these skills and values and roles that are the things that we need to do, the norms, which is a topic we'll be talking about soon in an upcoming lecture, the norms and the ways that we have to behave in relation to the various groups we belong to. So you can see here in the image, you've got two people who identify as feminine. And think about if you're a person who identifies as feminine, how you are socialized, how you are taught, what is like I don't know, is it a skill? Is it a motivation? Um, but the behavior, think about the behavior that's expected of people who are feminine. I identify as feminine when we sit down, that either our knees are together, our legs are crossed, our ankles are crossed, something along those lines, right? If you're a person who identifies as feminine, in the chair that you're sitting in right now, if you were sitting in a chair as you're listening to this, like sit like the other individual in the image, right? That it doesn't, I do this in classes, like to illustrate it. It does not feel comfortable. It does not feel right. It's not the way that that's not the way that I have been taught a role. Now, if I identified as masculine, a lot of times people who are masculine, not always, but are kind of socialized to take up space, right? To spread out. The term manspreading has popped up in recent years. I believe it's because in New York City, where there's millions of people that rely on public transportation together, the subway, um, if somebody sits down and is taking up a lot of room, there's not room for other people. And so I believe the New York City subway system had like posters or advertisements that said like stop the spread with like a stick figure like kind of spread out on a seat. And so that idea of like being socialized to take up space, or being socialized that no, you don't take up space, you behave a certain way no matter what. It's all teaching us how society thinks we should be. So I mentioned roles, and so I'm going to take you through some of mine, and I want you to be thinking about what some of your social roles are. So I'm a daughter and a sister. I'm the oldest of three, and a daughter, the oldest to my parents. I'll be seeing my mom tomorrow to take her to a doctor's appointment because that's the age and stage that we are in my family. But like thinking about who I am as the oldest sibling in my family and as a daughter to my parents. Then I'm a mom. I've been a mom for, oh my goodness gracious, almost closing in on 30 years. But I had my daughter when I was very young. So I'm still in my very late 40s. Um, but that actually really impacts my social role because I don't know what adulthood is without parenthood. And so that kind of really shapes my personality in many charming ways. So I am a wife. I'm lucky enough to have been married for 25 years. And I would say that my like behaviors as a mom and a wife, right, are pretty different than behaviors other places, like being a friend. I am a delightful friend. I'm probably kind of a whiny, needy wife, and I'm probably a strict mom, right? Have you ever had that happen though? You're with your friends. You're a delightful friend too. I know you are. And all of a sudden, like your sibling or your partner, significant other is like bugging the heck out of you. And you might not treat them in your finest, caring, respectful demeanor. And then you realize like you're in front of your friends and you're like, oh yeah, here I am. I think we all have those moments, those kind of behind the scenes moments that maybe with the people that we're closest to. Do we always act the finest? Maybe not. So, and then my role as a college instructor. Again, thinking about all the different social roles, I can navigate all of these roles, if you think about it, all in one day, as can you, whatever your roles are. You can go from work to school to possibly being a parent or possibly being the child to parents or where, you fall in your line of siblings, on and on and on, going to school, being a student. Like we navigate these roles back and forth all of the time. And then again, thinking about where do we learn what we learn. And so the agents of socialization, the places that we're learning about the roles, the norms, the things we need to do, our family, your friends, school. Now, school's tricky. Family too, because a lot of times, whereas like you have to kind of pick up on unspoken ways of acting, again, norms, school has a lot of rules, right? They're going to be really explicit about you can't do this, you can't do that. And family is kind of the one place that you can count on to be like, I don't know, say please and thank you, don't pick your nose, can't stand too close to a person. Like your parents or siblings are going to kind of keep you from acting in ways that are not considered socially acceptable. Other ways of being socialized, agents of socialization as religion, and then, man, one of the biggest ones in recent years, right? Social media, and where will it take us from here? So hopefully you're starting to think about what are your social roles? What are the things that you're learning about as you start to pay attention to the things that you kind of take for granted, the ways that you think society needs to be, the ways you choose to act? How many of them are choices that you are making, but how many of them are things that you're doing because that's what we're told somehow, some way to fit in? That's what we have to do.